So I've been thinking about something recently, and that is, which one of the Elden Ring bosses is the strongest lore-wise? Now I've always wanted to make this video, but I was waiting for the DLC to drop, and since it's been a little over a week now, I wanted to give y'all a ranking of all the Elden Ring Remembrance bosses from weakest to strongest, including the DLC bosses. Coming in at last place, we have the Regal Ancestor Spirit. Ancestral spirits exist as a phenomenon beyond the purview of the Earth Tree. Life sprouts from death as it does from birth, such is the way of the living. Now, to be completely honest, I don't know what the I just read, but all I know is that it's an overgrown deer that shoots glowing nuts, so I don't think I need to know too much about the lore in order to tell that this guy isn't really super strong, especially compared to the other bosses. And to be fair on my part, there's not really much lore about it anyways. At number 25, we have Godric the Grafted. Let's be honest, we all knew he would rank this low. I mean, this guy is stated to be the weakest amongst all demigods. He was so weak to the point where he had to hide against Radahn when he was doing his march. Which, to be fair, if I saw this behemoth of a man marching down where I live, I would be hiding too, not gonna lie. But also, for some unfortunate reason, this man encountered Melenia, who made him lick her boots. Now, I'm not sure if they meant that in a way that, Godric was getting his ass beat and then he had to beg her to stop. Or maybe, I don't know, Melenia is probably like a dominatrix or something who literally made him lick her boots in order to shame him or something. Either way, it's quite embarrassing on his part. And because of this, Godric's last hope for strength is grafting, which to be fair made him a little bit stronger, but still somewhat of a pushover, because even knowing this, Morgot sent out his projection, a weaker version of himself, to guard the castle from the Tarnish because he knew that Godric was way too weak and he would be the first target. You know how disrespectful that is? I mean, the man literally sent out a weaker version of himself because he knew that at least the clone would put up more of a fight than Godric. And that is true because Godric is way easier than Morgot. At number 24, we have the Purient Knight. There is not much lore going on for the Purient Knight. The only thing we know is that he guards Saint Trina, he was most likely human, who is now undead for some reason, and that's about it. There's not anything else to really go by other than his gameplay, which I don't really want to use because this video is just strictly based on lore. But from what it seems, he's just a regular undead knight. Now, I do think that he might be stronger than Godric and the Regal Ancestor due to him being a late game boss, but apart from that, I have nothing else to say, but I still feel confident putting him here because I doubt Saint Trina would just get a random ass knight to guard herself. So he must, be able to put up a fight. At number 23, we have the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. The Divine Beast Dancing Lion is interesting as we saw a version of it go up against one of the demigods, which was Mesmer. And yeah, it got off screen. Not just one, but many of them. So it's safe to assume that the Divine Beast is definitely not on par with any of the demigods, other than Godric, of course. He's barely a demigod. However, I find it interesting though, as it has many powers such as lightning, wind, and frost, which means it can definitely put up a fight. Again, it's not a super powerful boss by any means, and the fact that it was the first boss of the DLC kind of proves that. Shadow Tree Avatar. The Shadow Tree Avatar is the embodiment of the Shadow Tree itself, so I was kind of disappointed on how easy it was. But then again, I don't think I want to fight, 3 more phases of this thing. Now, it was hard ranking the Avatar because again, there's no feats to go by or anything, but it's safe to assume that it might be stronger than the Dancing Lion and the previous bosses due to its size, powers, and the fact that it's the embodiment of the Shadow Tree itself. But I still feel like it's weaker compared to all the other bosses I've yet to mention. One of these bosses happens to be Estelle, Natural Born of the Void. Estelle is definitely stronger than the Sunflower due to his powers and moveset. I mean, it can teleport, summon a whole meteor shower, and has some other gravity based attacks. Based on these, I can confidently say that compared to most of the beast-like creatures, Estelle is a powerhouse due to his sheer size and powers. Next up at number 20, we have Midra, the Lord of Frenzied Flame. It is stated somewhere in the lore that Midra was once too weak to become the Lord of Chaos, and because of this he was forced to endure the blade that was stabbed through his head, as a way to become the Lord of Frenzied Flame. And finally, when we kill him, in his first phase he finally becomes the Lord of Chaos. Now, with him being the Lord of Frenzied Flame, he can control and use the Frenzied Flame to attack his opponents, which does madness buildup, and lore-wise, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that the more people are exposed to these flames, the crazier they get until they, reach the point of madness. Now, when it comes on to the sword he's using, it's basically an executioner sword that can unravel itself into many spikes, which is something unique, but I don't think that's enough to even take on the demigods. Don't get me wrong, I still think Midra could put up a fight, but it's obvious that he lacks weapon dexterity and combat skills because many of the demigods and legends can take him out with just, their pure fighting skills alone. But at the same time, I don't think the frenzied flame power is anything to laugh at because I'm sure if it was a more powerful person who had this power, they could cause a lot of trouble. Rana was the younger sister of Rana and a Carian princess. However, she left the Carian manor to fight alongside Mesmer in the Land of Shadow. She eventually became his sword, much like how Melenia became Michaela's blade. Now I know some people are wondering why I put her here before Rana, even though she's harder. Well, you see, again, gameplay tells a whole different story from the lore because even before Rana left, it is said that Rana was the head of the Carian family, which means she would be stronger than her sister Rana at the time. Now I'm not sure if Rana, oh my fucking gosh, these names. No, I'm not sure if Rana has gotten stronger after her departure since she's now using Mesmer's flame arts, but I still think that in terms of sorcery and magic, Rana is far superior. However, in terms of sword skills, I do think Rana is better. But at the end of the day, I do think that again, while Rana might have the upper hand in, melee combat, her sister's mastery of magic proves that she's the superior one. But don't get it twisted, as Rana is still a really strong swordswoman given the fact that she literally became known as the Blade of Mesmer. Rana. Now I've pretty much explained why I think Rana is stronger than Rana, but I need to bring up one of her feats to prove that she was definitely not somebody to be reckoned with. First of all, she fought Radagon's army to a stalemate. Now we all know why it became a stalemate. Radagon saw her and knew he had to hit that. But still, it's mad impressive that out of all the people that fell to the Golden Order, Rana and the Carian family were the only ones that stood a chance. Now, another thing people are going to mention is the fact that she was super weak when we fought her. That is true. She was really weak, but at the same time, this was a broken, mentally depressed version of Rana that didn't even care about fighting us. I mean, the only enemies in the fight was her clones. Now, the other part of the fight, which is her second phase, cannot be truly used as a way to say she was super weak. I mean, first of all, that phase was literally, a clone created by Rani, so it's probably not even the full power of Rana. Overall, she's definitely not as weak as most people make her out to be, and I still think that she's stronger than her sister. Ramina, Saint of the Bud. Ramina was a victim of one of Mesmer's crusade and her church was burned down in the process. This angered Ramina to the point where she communicated with the Scarlet Rod Outer God and she created a religion from it. And she then turned the rod into what it is now. So due to her having the power of an Outer God backing her, it is safe to assume that she is somewhat quite powerful. Now unfortunately we don't have any crazy battle feats from her, but the fact that she communicated and gained powers from the Scarlet Rock God should be good enough to place her at this spot. Now before I move on, I do want to mention that while she and Melenia possess Scarlet Rod abilities, I think Melenia was more of the vassal of the Scarlet Rod Outer God itself, while Ramina was just given some powers by it, which is the reason why Melenia's Scarlet Rod abilities far exceeds Ramina's. Commander Gaius. Gaius was a friend of Mesmer and older brother figure to Radon, and it's stated that both him and Radon trained under the same Elden Lord who taught them gravity magic. However, despite him and Radon having the same teacher and him being friends with Mesmer, I don't think he was quite as powerful as them due to him being an albinaric. Remember, the first generation of albinaric people cannot walk as their legs can't move, so I think outside of mounted combat, Gaius would be at a disadvantage. But from what we see in his gameplay, it's shown that he can at least fly into the air for a couple seconds, which could help him, but the fact that he needs a mount is enough to let me put him here as he's still at a disadvantage. Fire Giant. The Fire Giant is an imposing force of nature due to its size and the fact that it can use flames of an outer god. Now I don't remember where, but I think it's stated somewhere that Radagon or Godfrey was able to defeat the Fire Giants in war, and that's how Radagon got his red hair, because he was cursed. So due to the Fire Giant losing to Radagon, it is safe to say that he's close to demigod level but still not as strong. Metyr. Now being the literal daughter of the Greater Will must mean you have to be super strong, right? Well, not necessarily. I don't think that Metyr is much of a fighter compared to the other bosses, as her sole purpose seemed to just be, surveillance for the Greater Will itself. Now Midra is still capable of fighting as she has many cosmic-like attacks, but even then, I still don't think she's as powerful as something like the Elden Beast. But I think while she lacks physical prowess, her influence is the most terrifying part about her, as she plays a big role in the story for the lands between, the Two Fingers, and the Greater Will itself. Reichard. When Reichard was young, he gave himself to a serpent, granting himself immortality and strength. However, in my opinion, I do think that he's one of the weaker demigods due to mobility. Sure, you might need a special weapon in order to defeat him, but with that weapon, almost all of the other demigods would kill him pretty easily, except for Godric. But the only thing they would have to worry about is when his body regenerates, but that may take a super long time. Again, his mobility is the main issue, as he's not nearly as fast as most of the other bosses I've yet to mention. Overall, he's one of the weaker demigods. Fortox. Now some people might be wondering why I placed Fortox over Reichard, since it stated that Fortox was defeated by Godwyn, another demigod. Now we don't know how strong Godwyn was, but this was an impressive feat, so I do think that Godwyn must have been stronger than Reichard. Now the reason why I placed the Lich Dragon over Reichard is because of mobility. You see, while the Serpent Hunter can easily wound Reichard, you can still hurt him using other means, and due to Fortox's ability to fly and cause death blight, it's safe to assume he can outmaneuver the serpent and strike it from above with its lightning. Now here at number 11 we have Morgot the Omen King. Definitely one of the strongest demigods for sure. He's able to use holy incantations such as the Raining Swords and the Golden Hammer. He's also able to use his own cursed blood as a way to buff his weapon, enhancing the damage output. One of the feats that gets brought up a lot is the fact that he was able to subdue a younger Radahn. Now not Prime Radahn, but a really skinny and younger version of him, which is still impressive given that it wasn't even Morgot fighting him but a projection of himself, which is Morgot. Also, Morgot being an omen and a demigod also gives him an edge in strength, as most omens are said to be crazy strong, and the fact that he's also the son of Godfrey makes this even better for him. He's also a very skilled swordsman and combatant. Overall, Morgot is really strong, and that's why I placed him here. At the number 10 spot we have Moog the Lord of Blood. Now this was a bit hard for me because when it comes on to pure physical skill and combat knowledge, Morgot definitely has the upper hand, but Moog has something that Morgot doesn't, and that's the power of an outer god by his side. Moog worships the Formless Mother, who grants him special blood-like abilities, and the fact that he already has cursed blood makes this even better for him. And unlike Morgot, Moog embraces the fact that he's an omen, and he will use this to his advantage. Now when it comes on to feats, there aren't too many things to go by, but it's safe to assume that he's at least a bit stronger than Morgot, and that's why I placed him at number 10. Star Scourge Radahn. Radahn is considered to be the mightiest of all demigods due to his sheer strength and powers. Speaking of powers, he's able to use gravity magic. With this, he's able to hold back the stars, manipulate his own weight so he doesn't crush his horse, able to fly into the sky and crash land like a meteor, and do other things with it as well. Another well-known feat he has is the fact that he fought Melenia to a stalemate, and even after getting blown up in the face by the rot bloom, he was still able to cling on to life wandering around the desert, and despite this, he was still so strong to the point where he needed a whole party of warriors to finally defeat him. Now some people say that he wouldn't have lost if he wasn't holding back the stars, and I'm not sure if him holding back the stars crippled his full potential, but since we don't have an answer, I'm just gonna leave him here at number 9. At number 8 we have Mesmer the Impaler. Now I wanted to put Melenia at number 8 because it's clear that both her and Radahn are close in strength, but I chose to put Mesmer here because while he does have a serpent god inside of him, I don't think it's as strong as the Scarlet Rot, since the Rot is more of a super deadly infection that literally eats away your mind, and it's probably super contagious, which means it's most likely way more deadlier than the Abyssal Serpent. But someone did mention that fire helps to keep the Scarlet Rot from spreading, and since Mesmer has a more special kind of fire, this would help him to get rid of it easily. But since I'm not 100% sure this would work for Mesmer, I'm still gonna place him here at number 8. But let's talk about some of his feats. Well, Mesmer is known for his crusade in the Land of Shadow. He has a strong army which was able to wipe out most of the divine beasts and the Hornsent people. He's also the demigod child of Marika, meaning that his strength is on par with his siblings. He was also cursed with the Abyssal Serpent, which grants him additional powers as well. And let's not forget the special flame that he can manipulate. These flames are strong enough to burn the thorns of the Shadow Tree and the Earth Tree as well. That's how powerful Mesmer's flames are. Now that's about it when it comes down to feats and strengths for Mesmer. At number 7 we have Melenia. Melenia is an extremely skilled swordswoman and the vassal to the outer god of Rot. She was able to fight Radahn, mightiest of all demigods, to a standstill. She was able to nuke a whole region with Rot, destroying and mutating the creatures there. Finally, she's able to transform into the goddess of Rot when she's pushed to her limits, becoming even more powerful. While Mesmer, Melenia, and Radahn are pretty much on par with each other, I would say that the goddess of Rot, Melenia, is the most powerful out of the three. Bale. From what we know of Bale, he fought Plasujasax and they both injured each other greatly, Plasujasax losing 2 of his head while Bale lost his leg. Now we don't know too much about Bale's other feats, but it's stated that he is the father of all drakes, meaning that he was probably a lower born ancient dragon, and that's why he looks so different from other ancient dragons such as Fortox, Lanciax, and Plasujasax. He doesn't even share that part of their names. Now when it comes on to the fight between him and Plasujasax, the fact that he was able to do as much damage to the Dragon Lord is still a great feat, despite him retreating and sustaining a lot of injury as well. This alone pushes Bale at the number 6 spot, since we know that Plasujasax is extremely powerful. Speaking of Plasujasax, we have him at the number 5 spot. We know he was the Elden Lord a long time ago, even before Godfrey. He's also the Dragon Lord, which means he rules over all the other ancient dragons. Now the only battle feat we know about him is the one with Bale. A lot of people mention Godfrey as well, but I don't think it was ever confirmed that they ever fought. But since he's the Dragon Lord, I'm going to put him at number 5. At number 4 we have Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. What makes Godfrey's strength impressive is the fact that he was not only one of the strongest people in the Elden Ring universe, but he was just a regular human. He wasn't a god nor a demigod, no, he was just a normal human being. Now granted, he might have gained a buff in strength after becoming Morgot's consort, but the fact that he was known as the Lord of the Battlefield is still impressive. He was also so strong that Radahn looked up to him when he was younger, and even after losing his grace and was sent away to the Badlands, he was still beating like a lot of people's ass and stuff, even though he was eventually killed. But I think it's because he was like most likely jumped by an army of soldiers or something. Either way, Godfrey is still extremely powerful, especially considering the fact that he's just a tarnished human. At number 3 we have Malakith. Malakith ranks above Godfrey due to the fact that he has the Rune of Death imbued within his sword, which literally makes him the Grim Reaper of the Elden Ring world. With the Black Blade, Malakith can kill anyone, even if they are immortal, and I think all it takes is just one sword swing for you to be one-tapped by him. He was also powerful enough to kill most of the Godskins and take out even the Glowmite Queen herself, and that was also before he had the Rune of Death, which goes to show that he's not only relying on his Black Blade, but he's also just a really skilled fighter as well. It is stated that he was so strong that even the demigods didn't want smoke with him. Overall, he's just a really powerful, extremely strong guy. Promised consort Radahn and Miquella. After playing through the DLC, these guys deserve to be ranked high. Look, I know that gameplay difficulty shouldn't be used here, but I think the devs wanted you to get the idea that consort Radahn is supposed to be up there as one of the strongest beings in the Elden Ring world. First of all, this is a younger version of Radahn, and sure, it might not be his full prime since he's technically using someone else's body, but at the same time he's incredibly strong, especially when Miquella decides to give him a power up. And remember, at this point Miquella is also a god, and both of them together makes an insane duo. Now Radahn can detonate a holy nuke, fly at you at light speed, create copies of himself and fly into the air, then crash land like a falling star. And in this state he's extremely fast as well. Since we don't have any lore feats from consort Radahn, not regular Radahn but consort Radahn, I had to use gameplay to justify his placement, but I don't think a lot of people are going to disagree with me that I placed him and Miquella at second place. Now, the strongest boss in the Elden Ring universe is definitely the Elden Beast, which is literally the vassal of the Greater Will itself, which is an outer god. It's also the embodiment of the Elden Ring, which represents order. What more do I have to say? Now you might be saying, well, if the Elden Beast is so strong, then why did the Tarnished defeat it? And to that I have to say, well, we're just built differently. You see, the Elden Beast is still powerful due to the fact that it helps influence a lot of the shit going on in the game, and to be honest, That's all I have, because I don't have any actual feats for this thing other than what it's able to create and do. But trust me, the Elden Beast is the strongest being in the Elden Ring lore, again due to it being a super powerful Outer God's vassal. And that's it, all the Elden Ring bosses ranked from weakest to strongest. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a good one.